someone asked this question on Quora, and I think there are a million different variations on this question, so it would be good to have an answer in my pocket just to give to anyone who asked this. So basically the question was, should I go to an acting conservatory for 4 years and pursue my passion of acting? Or should I get a more practical degree in something like accounting? Which one is the better path? And before I take a crack at answering this question, I think it's important to reframe two ideas that are beliefs that frame this question. So the first belief, which is, to be more clear, I think a myth. So it's not a belief, it's a myth. And the first myth is that this idea that if you get a practical degree, like accounting or engineering or whatever, that you are more likely to be able to find a job that provides security. It's not a guaranteed thing that you're going to get a job, or a job that you like, or a job that necessarily pays well out of the gate because you have a degree in economics, because you have a degree in finance, right? Like, that used to be the case, but that same level of security is not there anymore. So you can't get the degree thinking that it's going to offer X, Y, and Z. There's no guarantee. The second myth that I want to address is this idea that if you go and get a liberal arts-like degree, if you go to an acting conservatory, if you get a BS in music or BA, that you won't be able to get a job in the practical field later on. Like, there are plenty of people who have degrees in philosophy, who have degrees in theater, degrees in music, that end up getting a very practical job at banks doing accounting. They go and they take a boot camp afterwards later on, and they get a job as a computer engineer. So just because you get a BA or you pursue something in the arts doesn't mean that you are stuck, and you won't ever be able to transition to something that is more practical later on. So those are the two big myths that need to be busted, and the reason why is, in order to address this question, you can't just assume that one path is going to lead to a stable career and one's going to lead to a career in the arts. Like, you just don't know. There are too many variables out there. And in this world of so many variables, where ultimately the degree you get doesn't play as large of a role in your future anymore, I don't think that's the right context in which you think about, where should I go to school and how should I spend my time for the next 4 years. I think here what really works well is the regret minimization framework, which was, I don't think invented by Jeff Bezos, but it was definitely popularized by him. And the regret minimization framework says that you should think about yourself when you are 70, 80 years old, when you're on your deathbed. And if you look back on your decision, you should make the decisions where you are trying to minimize your regret. And so if you imagine yourself when you're 70, 80, you're lying on your deathbed, and you look back at this juncture in your life, which is more likely the choice that you would regret? Would you regret not taking a chance at going to this acting conservatory and pursuing your passion for acting? Or would you regret having done the acting but not having a practical degree like accounting or economics or whatever? And once you've assessed that, you should just go for the decision. You should go for the choice that reduces the amount of regret that you'll have when you're older. I think this is just the only way to make this decision, because of the fact that you don't know what's to come in the future. You don't know how your career is going to shape up. You don't know how the field of acting, or basically any field, is going to look like in the next 10 years, right? Just especially with the way that technology continues to disrupt entire industries. Like, imagine if, you take, trying to think of an industry that's just like completely tanking right now, where this would apply. Anyways, I'll come up with an example later. The point is, this is a good framework. I don't think it's necessarily good for all decisions. I think it's overprescribed in terms of a general decision-making framework. For example, like, you don't use this as a framework when you think about, like, oh, should I stay inside and should I stay home and work and develop on my technical skills and work on my writing, work on my craft, or should I go out tonight and have drinks and hang out with friends, right? Like, not as good of a benchmark or a framework to use in that scenario. But for something like this is, basically what it's made for, to help you make decisions like this. So I would use that as your framework to think about this decision.